Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Punch Up Pod Sunday night show, the shit show. Welcome to the end of the weekend. Thanks for being here. How is everybody?
How are you?
guys?
I am good, Lila.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking me specifically.
I realized I said everybody. I was like, you're really the only person who can.
Well, I wanted to give
like,
everyone space to talk,
to
but
talk.
already getting attacked from the green screen cat.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Strike's making an appearance.
strike is striking low. There goes the green screen.
The runs. Oh, that's so funny. We have a surprise for you tonight. We're making a comeback for the wheel. The wheel's going to now be part of both shows every week. Hi, Kimmy.
And we have an experimental wheel for Wednesday. That's an actual wheel. We're going to see if that
analog
fixes some of our tech stuff.
Yeah, we're hoping that means I won't get kicked out again after that. I am
How are you doing?
apparently wildly underslept, so much so that I woke up at 8:30, was reading in bed, doing some research, and my dog crawled in next to me, and I was like, I'm just gonna close my eyes for a minute. And I woke up at noon scrambling, and I'm getting texts from Pat like, are you okay? Is everything all right? Because I hadn't responded in hours. So it's been a very short day for me. I've only been awake for 5 hours, but I'm feeling a little like I need to get my bearings still.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm like super run down too from last week's work. I was in an attic like every day almost last week, working in an attic.
Oh,
and when it's like 80 out, it's like 120 degrees in an attic,
That is brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really brutal.
It wiped me out. I mean, I'm recovering now, but honestly, like there's something to the days and days of it just do add up to
yeah. And to be in that kind of a heat, yeah, that's awful.
Yeah.
That's awful. Well, I'm glad that you are recovering. Hi everybody. I'm seeing Adria is here, and we got Stephanie.
Atmospheric river. Did they just make that word up like 2 years ago?
Yes, I think so.
It was always just a rainstorm. I mean, not that it's not severe, but like suddenly they just added more drama with that whole atmospheric river thing.
Well, but yes, but I mean, I think it's because it's like verging on like flooding, right?
Yeah, no, it's a more extreme.
Yeah. Version. Okay. I thought you. Yeah. I was like, all of a sudden, Allison Pass becoming a climate denier.
I've been watching Jimmy Dore,
Yeah, oh my God.
Did you see that with Dore? Dore's got like a climate denialist whole show on it. Like we told everyone that dude is just, he sold his ass out.
So bad, but it is really interesting to see. Sorry, Audrey is just responding. Okay, didn't know that. Used forever in Seattle. I'd never heard of it either.
But it's probably just global warming and climate change that we didn't have to use that word in Sacramento, I guess.
Right.
A few years
recently,
ago.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that whole group of anti-war, and then they sort of brought in the libertarians and the Mises Caucus and racists and the Boogaloo, and then all of a sudden it became like they're anti-war, but then they're also, and I think these are the words that George Galloway used when he was just elected: anti-COVID, anti-climate, anti-woke. That's their thing.
Yeah, I don't know how you can be a leftist and be anti-woke.
Yeah.
I get as a comedian, you want freedom to tell your jokes and whatnot, but we're talking about government's positions,
Yeah.
Like that's not, you can have your little show and tell your jokes that are off color or whatever.
Yeah. But like not to take, basically what they were saying, because a lot of people, when that first anti-war protest was happening.
Yeah. Unite with the Nazis.
Yeah, that when they united with the, kind of fast sheep people on the right, the anti-war right, basically they're like, we will throw these groups under the bus to be with these people. And so that was their anti-woke, which, as a lot of Black Americans say, it's like, well, you can call it DEI or woke, but basically it's always a different subbed in word to basically say, fuck this marginalized group, and we don't really care about this, and do trans people and queer people really need rights, and we need to, end the war first before we can deal with all of this. And, it got really ugly.
It's a Make America Great theme, kind of. It's like, go back to when we weren't so worried about all these lefty causes, basically.
Yeah. Right. And lefty causes are just like human rights. Like, it's just amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. But I mean, when you look at Dorr, once he went on Tucker Carlson and became a regular there, that pivot, if money was your issue, if you want money, once you got on Tucker Carlson's show, you don't want to turn off his audience, right? Because they could be subscribers to your podcast. And that's exactly the trajectory of his show. His show was catering to that audience from then on out.
Yep.
And then he took libertarian money for the trucker rally, from the billionaire that funded the trucker rally.
Yep.
As did some actual leftists that are still leftists, but they owned up to it. Not that he didn't, but I don't think it changed them. I think they regret taking the money.
You think they regret taking the money?
Well, like Jordan Status Quo took.
Sorry. Yeah. I stopped paying attention to you for a second because I was reading people's comments. Yeah, I think you're right. And as was it TT said up there? Sorry, but yes, if you don't have any morals or an ideology that's true, that you actually have thought through, then it's just money. Yeah, that's pretty much everybody's ideology. Not everybody, the people in power, the successful people. That's their ideology. It's the only religion.
Yeah. And I saw his transformation happening real time. And I'm not friends with him, but I've always had a connection with him because TYT people that I'm friends with turned him on to me. So he started using my parody stuff a lot. Yada, yada. But I mean, I remember back when the pandemic first started and I was doing the comedy thing for the book release. We did a couple comedy.
I was at the one here that he opened for you guys.
Yeah, and there was all this drama because Rick Overton was performing there for us as part of the book thing.
Right.
And he's very anti-masker, and he was from the start very against it all. And so Jimmy was calling him out and saying how ridiculous all of it was. Like
that Rick was being ridiculous.
Yeah, Rick was being ridiculous,
Yeah.
And look how far he's come since then.
I know. I mean, we're not going to really be talking about COVID today, but there have been quite a few huge studies and papers on hundreds of studies put together talking about, I mean, as we all knew, but yes, of course, masks work. Even surprisingly, and I have to dig a little deeper, but like even cloth and surgical, nowhere near like 95 and 95s, but like at least it's something. What doesn't work is one-way masking. That's not.
And I already pulled some COVID stuff on that study for our next show. But we're not getting into it today.
We're always like,
tune in next week if you want to save yourself. We'll have some science that will save your life. Wednesday.
It's behind a paywall. All right, let's thank, as always, our wonderful members, our pup heroes and sheroes. You guys, thank you. You're amazing. We so deeply appreciate you. Thank you. Sound effects. And I need to do Pat's favorite thing, which is remind everybody to like and subscribe and smash that notification bell so that when we get cut off midstream because we're showing something, even though we should be able to show it because of fair use, and I have to like quickly start a new link to start a new stream, you will see that alert. So,
and we are covering Bill Maher, and they seem to be one of the ones that go after us occasionally. So there's a good chance it happens today. So if we disappear, come right back. We'll put it back up.
Yeah, do. And also though, I will say that I fought back against the first time that they kind of got us on it. They didn't cut us in the middle of the show, but afterwards we got a notice from YouTube, and I appealed it, and you
fought the law and won.
Yeah. Look at that. Look
at
that.
Shit.
They're just counting on us giving up.
You can't silence us.
No, you can't. No, you can't. we're
being oppressed. I'm picturing
that's
them.
right.
Holy
That's right.
Grail.
Don't cancel
Python.
me. Yeah, right. All right. So sorry, I'm just waking up.
What do you want to have a show about, Lila? What
I don't know. It's the
talk about?
craziest thing.
Should we start with the cheers?
Let's start with the cheers. So this is an Irish member of parliament representing the Sinn Féin branch, and his name is Thomas Gould. Are you ready to?
And he pulled no punches, and we need, imagine if we had like
a Congress with these people,
2 people like this in Congress, 3, or the whole squad. What if the whole squad was this guy?
Photographs and the pictures and the videos that come from there, and you hear the screams of people screaming as the Israeli government burned men, women and children alive. They burned them alive. And the world stands by while 15,000 children are being slaughtered. 35,000 men and women and children. And it's unbelievable, the genocide that's happening. A child with no head, a child with no head, and the Israeli government say it's a mistake, a mistake. I hope that Benjamin Netanyahu burns in hell the same way them children and their families burned. I hope him and his generals and the far-right government in Israel, that when their God finally brings him to the resting place, that he deserves to burn in hell. Because what is happening now, not alone is it apartheid, not alone is it atrocity and a war crime, it's just horrific. It's just horrific what they're doing. Where is their soul? Where is the soul of the Israeli people that allows their government to do this to children? Where is their humanity? The Israeli people, the Jewish people, after everything the Jewish people have suffered down over the decades, that they would allow their government to do this to other human beings. Human beings. But in the eyes of Netanyahu...
Oh, did we disappear?
Why did that cut off?
I have no idea.
That
crazy.
Was strange because we both had, it's got like 40 seconds left, but oh well, we can't.
Yeah, was that another shut up? Maybe we're like, did we stop broadcasting? Did somebody else pull the plug on us?
If we can't show the Irish, we're really doomed because they're the only ones that raise hell enough.
Saying anything. Yeah, Cora, seriously, like to hear that and in that accent is so great. And it's nice to add another person to our Mick Wallace and Claire Daly rotation, right?
They're amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we have a few people every once in a while who do that, but it's, as they've told us, they do not work as a team. There's no strategy there with that squad of ours. So whatever.
And they'll never call out Biden directly.
Never.
They'll never call it. I mean, I guess we've heard genocide a couple times from a few of them, but they're not connecting it to Biden at all and are funding it at all. And that we have the power to stop it. Like somehow we should just vote. And
yeah. And the lies. I mean, it has only been in, like on Twitter with independent journalists where I see them calling out the lies that are being propagated by mainstream media saying, Biden has this great 3-part plan for a ceasefire presented to him by Israel. And now it's up to Hamas to accept it. Meanwhile, Hamas, like back in October, said we'll release the hostages. There have been several different times that they have said that they would be open to a ceasefire, including just in February. Israel keeps saying no. Biden has had his representatives veto a ceasefire 3 times at the UN, resolutions for ceasefire. And so now all of these legacy media, corporate media, it's on Hamas to accept it. Great. Then Hamas has a positive response to it. And what does Netanyahu say? No way are we accepting a ceasefire. We will continue this operation until we've gotten rid of all of Hamas, which as everybody knows, is impossible. So basically, they're just saying they will continue bombing Gaza to smithereens, and now they are starting in full force on the West Bank. So,
yeah, and for Biden to come out and say, like, the Israelis presented this deal, and then they're the ones not accepting it, it's just such a lie. It's so in our face.
Yeah. I mean, it is such a lie. And again, the fact that they will talk about Trump and all of his lies, and yeah, there are horrendous lies, but Biden is a lifelong pathological liar, and they never call him out on it anymore. In the 80s, that was the last time they called him out on it, when he sank his own, presidential run.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, 4 years ago, the media showed us a little bit of how people thought about Biden and his own party. They had Democrats on saying he's too old, he's too gropey, he's problematic, he shouldn't run, Obama. They had all that stuff, and so we're now 4 years later, and we're not going to see that, because the only reason we got that is because they didn't think there was anyone in hell he would be the nominee.
Right.
So now that we got him as the nominee, the news is pretending that 4 years ago he was not up for the job, but now he is.
Yeah. And boy, the difference, it was clear 4 years ago that he was in decline, but now, like, to see him, he doesn't even give an interview, as we know, like a real interview. He at least was able to sort of handle himself then. Yeah. All right, let's start off with I promised we would be back with this. We heard your cries, and here we are.
Bring some joy.
Bring some joy. Look at that. That is the way to start it off.
We do a shot. Well, are you doing shots? I'm not doing shots.
You're not.
I'm drinking beer. I'll drink a lot of beer, though. How's that?
All right. I mean, I have my wine. I'll do a shot. I do what I'm told. All right. Nice. Am I removing that, or do we have more of that?
You can keep it on if you want. We got a couple. We're loaded with the fun clips today.
We're loaded with the fun, because we have a lot. This is a heavy kind of Israel one today.
Why did that cut off?
Pat, what is going on?
What the shit?
Actually really nervous, because our longer clips that you did wraparounds for are going to close out on us like that. What happened? Oh no. Okay. We're going to that's a stinker.
Let's just try it one more. Should we try it again? Unfortunately, we can't start and stop these, so we got to go from the beginning.
Yeah, you want to try it?
Let's just do one more and see what happens.
All right.
I love the Mexican people, especially the big girls, las gorditas. They are so tasty. Ay, que rico. They call me el viejo asqueroso, which is Spanish for the handsome orange man.
All right, so there was just some weird thing with StreamYard. Shocker. All right, we hate to do it to you guys, but because Bill Maher is representative of so much mainstream thinking, and also kind of gives cover to the racism, the Islamophobia, the derision of the protests, and the Hasbara, like all of these different things. This felt like a good clip to sort of address some of his lies or mistruths.
Well, what I think was interesting is I was stopped by my parents' house earlier, and my parents are both, my mom is more centrist lib and my dad is more progressive lib.
Right.
But I brought up that we were covering Bill Maher on the show, and they were both like, yeah, what the hell is wrong with that guy? Why does he hate progressives so much?
Really?
So for that to sink into them, like they recognize, and my dad is more in line with my politics, but he's like threatening to leave the country if Biden wins. So it's like he's gonna vote for Biden at the end of if Trump wins.
Yeah.
So he's gonna cave and vote for Biden no matter what. Like that part's already baked in. But for them to say that about Bill Maher shows that he's lost some of his heft on the left.
He's gone the Jimmy Dore route. They all know where the bread is buttered. I mean, it's like all these people who were diehard Democrats, and now they're threatening to pull their money from Biden because he has had a slightly harsher tone with Netanyahu and Israel, even though nothing policy-wise has changed at all. But all these people are going to just, go over to the Republicans, vote for Donald Trump probably, and the same libs who always blame the left will do it again, even though, as we saw from that poll, that Siena New York Times poll just 2 weeks ago, it was 16% of Democrats who had voted for Biden in 2020 were considering going over to Trump. It was 2% of people who consider themselves progressive who were going to abstain from voting for Biden. But they're still going to blame the left, and I'm sure they'll blame, Black people and Muslim Americans and Arab Americans. They're going to do all of that, but that's never the reality.
Yeah, I mean, they're blaming the protesters. Coming so hard for the protesters is coming very hard for the necessary voting bloc. Like, you cannot win without young people. And I saw someone posted about this the other day, but it made a lot of sense. Like, the framing now is young people, we keep hearing how young people aren't voting for Biden, not enthusiastic, but they're changing what young people are. So now 45 and younger are considered young people because the demographic has shifted. It's so anti-Biden. It's moving on up. It's now 45 and under are anti-Biden.
I will take that. Not that I'm 45, but I will take the being roped into a younger named demographic. No, but
when was 45 like considered a young person?
Yeah, only if you drop dead, then they'll be like, oh, so he was so young. No, totally. Of course. And I think what a lot of liberals who blame the left don't realize, because they think showing up to fill out their little circles or cast their ballots once every 4 years is their civic engagement, which, fine. But what they don't realize is those young people who are organizers or activists, it's not just about them going to the polls. It's about what they do. They knock doors. They do get out the vote campaigns. They get buses of people. They go around to pick people up to make sure they vote. Do you have a plan to vote? They do the ballot harvesting. What is it? Is that the bad name for it?
Negative term.
Yeah, whatever. The thing where you help people with their vote by mail, like all of that stuff. It's not just about those people that you're seeing there not voting. It's about all the people they end up bringing to the polls to vote. And so you're not just casting them aside. You're casting, like, it is exponential, all the people that they would normally put in the work. And by the way, right after Ossoff and Warnock got elected on the promise of those $2,000 checks, and then they got the $1,400 checks, right away, most of the organizers said, I can never knock on doors again. Like, we promised people specifically, you will get a $2,000 check.
Yeah. So, credibility is shot, because they put their credibility on the line with Biden, and that's how it works. But I mean, you've got those their videos of people that have been like the diehard Democrats, even influencers online, paid by the Democratic Party, are like, I'm done with him. Yeah, I can't defend this anymore. And that's what genocide will fucking do. That's what beating up college kids will do across the country.
Yeah. So this is where Bill Maher comes in, because he is still here for it. So Forgive us.
Bill Maher, permanent worst of the week.
Seriously, the worst. All right, I'm adding him.
If you're out protesting for a couple of hours wearing this, you have to go all the way and spend an afternoon running errands wearing one of these. You can't side with the people who ruthlessly oppress women without at least getting a taste of what you're supporting. Well, now that summer is here and the Hamas-backing college protesters have dispersed back to their summer internships at Goldman Sachs, I thought it might be a good time to say this. I actually admire your youthful idealism, and our world would be poorer without it. Much like your parents who just wasted 300 grand on that ignorance factory you call a college. Not that I think it's your fault being this poorly educated and morally confused. That takes a village. Shitty schools, overindulgent parents, social media, that priest who rubbed lotion on you. But 3 cheers to you for at least having the impulse to seek a cause and something bigger than yourself. It's just that the one you picked, you missed the boat by a fucking mile.
I'm stopping it for 2 reasons. One, because he's already said like 6 things that are wrong, but also I feel like the more we pause, the less likely we just get shut down. Okay, there are a few things. First of all, a lot of those people that he makes fun of for their tents and packing up are actually coming right back to protest. They won't be doing it on the campus. They will be doing it in other places, as they have been doing through the streets in this entire country. Also, the whole Goldman Sachs thing, that's not these people. Sorry, that's his crowd.
Yeah, that was the most
Yeah.
ridiculous comment. I mean, these people are not, look, you might have some of the colleges are elitist colleges, but you're ignoring every other college in the country.
Yeah.
Like every college, like literally Sac State, you know, my local Sac State had a protest and they had approval for it. You know, they were allowed to have the tent camps and whatnot, but it's just bullshit. And his entire audience is so uninformed. They think he's right on all this stuff because they're now filtering this audience. Like he would have gotten boozed if this was a real, like,
absolutely
audience, booed like crazy.
Yeah. But also, like, what is, and I mean, we're going to get into this more in the second part, but like his saying that they're ignorance factories and that they are, what did he say, morally confused and poorly educated. He never once talks about any specific thing happening in Israel or Palestine or Gaza or the West Bank.
It all started on October 7th.
Yeah.
According to Bill Maher. And he's an Islamophobic. You know, I hate all religions. I will put that out there. I don't like any of them. But he's very much like, for the guy who himself used to be known as the anti-religion guy.
Yeah.
He focuses exclusively on Islamic.
He absolutely says they're the worst religion. And it's been pointed out to him many times by people on his panel who he probably will never have back, whether it's, Ben Affleck or Glenn Greenwald. But like, I'm not excusing the horrors that can happen in any part of the world, but, in Islamic states at all. But like, he doesn't ever bring up the fact that the U.S. helped overthrow a leader of Iran who was much more progressive or to the left or not religious, right? Or that Benjamin Netanyahu helped promote Hamas because they are like an ugly figure and not able to, because they were based originally on Sharia law. And that was the antidote to the Palestinian Authority, who was not religious, right? So he doesn't ever want to talk about the reason that so many countries have gone so far right or have embraced a certain way of governing with the help of the U.S.
Absolutely. And I challenge anyone watching this to point out when he makes any evidence-based claim for why these kids are wrong.
Right. Yeah.
There's nothing. Yeah. This entire monologue we're about to show, he pivots to, you should be focusing on, you know, the country is forcing women to wear hijabs. Right. And so somehow, because that's what we should be focusing on, it's supposed to negate the reality of why these people are protesting and what's happening in Palestine.
It's just a bully.
It's just it's a nonsense argument. Yeah. He's using jokes to deflect and distract and then take you to an issue that is not related to the war at all.
Exactly. All right, I'm pressing play. We made it through one segment without getting shut down. So let's see. Fingers crossed.
But here's the good news. You want a cause? Because I totally got one for you. Apartheid. Yeah, apartheid, the thing you've been shouting about with Israel for months. Never mind that Israeli Arabs are actually full citizens. You learned that word from a 2 Chainz song and discovered that protesting South Africa's apartheid in the 80s was a righteous cause, and so it was. To this day, when celebrities are asked who is the person they most admire, one name is always the safest choice.
Nelson Mandela.
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 Like, what's funny about that? Like,
he's just making fun.
He's legitimately incredible and did so much to end an apartheid. He was in jail for 10 years or whatever. I mean, fucking Bill, fuck this guy. I get so, I want to punch this guy.
Everybody agrees with something, it's got to be wrong. Like, yeah, it's just such an easy way of trying to make fun of people. He's just always,
But why is he salty? Why even show celebrities?
Well, he's saying they're all sheep. It's like, I mean, honestly.
Yeah, but they're not wrong.
Yeah.
Is it?
I know.
He's not even making a case.
Yeah.
I don't even.
I know. Yeah.
All right.
So naturally, when you heard that Israel was an apartheid state, it gave you such a boner, you literally pitched a tent.
Oh my God.
You knew how wrong it was when tens of millions of South Africans had been treated like second-class citizens just because of their race. But here's the thing. Today, right now, hundreds of millions of women are treated worse than second-class citizens. When you mandate that one category of human beings don't even have the right to show their face, that's apartheid. And it goes on in a lot of countries.
Okay, it is. And yet, you never said that the Palestinians aren't living under apartheid. See, that's the problem here. He's not ever saying that they aren't living under apartheid. He's like, you just shouldn't care so much about that one.
Yeah. And also, we're not funding the places where they aren't allowed to show their face. Although, I mean, we do a lot of business with Saudi Arabia. That's the whole reason that this started. Like, the normalization of our relationship and Israel's relationship with Saudi Arabia it's all about arms sales. I mean, that's what normalization means. It's money. It's like exchange of goods. That's what that means. And we're fine. We're fine with Egypt and Saudi Arabia. But we do not fund Iran. We're not giving money to Iran. So the culpability that a lot of people in the US feel for what's happening in Israel and Palestine is I think stems quite a bit from the fact that no other country gets as much assistance as Israel does. By the way, for a socialized country where they have, free healthcare, that'd be nice.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the second piece to it, is that it's not only that we fund it, it's just the opportunity cost of that money being used here when so many people are suffering here. And young people are at the front line of the pain of this economy that's supposedly doing great. And they see this, and it's just like, how can you not protest this when it's so wrong? Yeah. You know, it's an apartheid state. You know, we're paying for healthcare for Israeli people who are committing genocide. Their government is.
Right.
And life is fucked for these guys. So of course they know, and they are more educated than him. He's talking about school kids not being educated. Give me a fucking, he is so clueless personally. He avoids, remember him talking about avoiding the homeless people?
I never see him. What's wrong with the economy?
I never see
this.
it. It's all hype. Well, do you ever go down to 42nd Street or whatever? No, I never go there. There's too many homeless people.
Yeah, Skid Row. Yeah, no, nope, never.
Yeah.
Why would I go there? That was his response. Yeah. Wait, he said something. Oh, I will say, while I was trying to find some rebuttals to some of what he said, it popped up. I guess he was just on Megyn Kelly's show, and I'm not watching Megyn Kelly, but she shut him down because he started to say something about Trump being an election denier. And she's like, well, so is Hillary. Nope. She right away that night came out in her pantsuit to, give him congratulations for winning. And then she had it all queued up and she's like, okay, sure. But then right away started saying he was an illegitimate president. And then she shows the clip saying that he wasn't, he knows that he didn't really win. And like each clip, everything that he said, she already knew it was going to be and had it lined up to rebut him because he's used to being in an atmosphere where he only has on the, what's her name? That Ann Coulter. Like that was the first clip 25 years ago that he loves having those people around.
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, we might bring it there for Wednesday. All right, here we go. Going back. I know. Yeah. 2 horror shows.
For the last couple of years, women in Iran have been saying, take this hijab and shove it. Because in 2022, a young woman named Masa Amini was arrested for wearing her mandatory hijab incorrectly and then died in police custody. And now security forces have killed over 500 people protesting her death and this obvious human rights violation. How about defunding those police?
Okay. Sorry. I just have to stop it really quickly because he hates the defund the police movement and loves to make fun of people here for saying it. Number 1. Number 2, these are U.S. police killings from 2013 to 2024. There were, and I know obviously we have a bigger population than Iran, but this isn't great. Right. But if you talk about it in this country, he will make fun of you for that. You're ruining Democrats' chances. Do you want Trump to win? It's like he's going to keep moving the goalposts no matter which way. But now all of a sudden he cares about police brutality.
Yeah. I mean, the point is he doesn't, and he mocks people who care about it. So he's mocking, not all, but, Black communities who it's a severe issue with police use of force, just mocking it because it doesn't affect him. And that's, when I think of him, I don't really think he's a shill for the party so much. It's just, he's literally just a smug little bastard who's untouched by any political action whatsoever. Yeah. He's the normal Democrat who's like, Trump annoys your senses.
The worst evil.
It's just,
he's a shill for the 1%.
He is, but
that's what he is. Not the Democratic Party, but for the establishment, like for the elite. That is where those are his circles.
But he says what he means. Like I don't think he's like necessarily paid to say what he thinks. Like he's just this guy who's just a little douchebag who's living in his little bubble. And I remember watching his audience used to boo him a lot, and he would stop the shows all the time.
I mean, he is like the Jeb Bush of comedians. He will just sit there, get annoyed, and be like, please clap. Really? Nothing for that joke?
Yeah, the joke was hilarious. It wasn't that we were offended by your joke, but they were all offended by his joke, and it wasn't funny.
Exactly. All right, let's see. Oh, I did the wrong thing. Hello. Look what I did to you. There we go. Sorry about that. I've barely been awake.
Amnesty International says that Iranian authorities are waging a war on women that subjects them to constant surveillance, beatings, sexual violence, and detention. What P. Diddy calls a hotel stay. In Iran, Me Too isn't a movement. It's what a woman says when another woman says, my life sucks. Yasmin Mohammed is a human rights activist who got married off to a Muslim man with fundamentalist views about women, not exactly uncommon in the Muslim world. He forced her to wear the niqab all the time, including once beating her because she took her hijab off at home because the apartment had a window through which people might see in. And this was in Vancouver. Here's what Yasmin said about veiling. It just suppresses your humanity entirely. It's like a portable sensory deprivation chamber, and you are no longer connected to humanity. You can't see properly. You can't hear properly. You can't speak properly. People can't see you. You can only see them. Just little things, passing people on the street and just making eye contact and smiling, that's gone. You're no longer part of this world, and so you very quickly just shrivel up into nothing under there. And that's my answer when someone says Islamophobe.
I love that. Nothing.
Nothing.
Because everyone else knows it's not so simple, black and white like that. Like that is not. There's so many people that follow the Islamic religion that don't believe in jihad. Help me out here.
Who aren't proponents of violence or covering up like that. Listen, I mean, and it is such a straw man because he's acting like, the people who are against a genocide want to see women like that. Like, what? That's horrible. I hate that, actually. I will say flat out, I think that is repugnant, appalling, disgusting, inhumane, criminal behavior to force anybody to wear that. Yes.
Yeah, and it connects to, like, the president of Iran was murdered, and the people I know
died in a helicopter crash.
Yeah, okay. But the people I know who are Persian or Iranian, they didn't like him at all.
Right.
Because of a lot of these policies, and they've been fighting this for years,
Yeah.
But it's the shit libs like him that are like, well, you shouldn't be happy that this terrible guy is gone because they're supporting. Well, actually, this is a whole nother level, but never mind.
No, I know what you're saying. Because okay, yeah, sorry.
Well, I was making a leap to supporting
like
a lot of Palestinian leftists,
like,
a lot of pro-Palestinian leftists were like, that was our best ally over there in Iran. Right. So, but it's the same faulty logic.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, and a lot of our friends who are Persian or Iranian were like, please don't, like, you can be pro-Palestine and not be supportive of a ruthless government, religious state. Like, of course, you should be able to separate all of that. We have enough words and nuance to be able to say, I don't ever want any woman to be forced to wear that, while I also don't want a genocide. Like, I can do both of those things. You don't have to,
It's such a straw man and false argument that us leftist protesters or the kids on college protesting are against this. No, they're not against this at all. They would support everything he's saying, except for the Islamophobic connection where you're conflating all of Islam with this policy, which is not all of Islam's beliefs.
Right. And just for the sake of accuracy, child marriage is still legal in 43 U.S. states. Since 2000, over 250,000 children in the U.S. were married. And the instances of domestic abuse in those young girls who are married off by their parents to much older men is incredibly high. And they are not allowed to file for divorce until they're 18. The husband can do whatever he wants. So, and again, listen, I much prefer living in the US to living in Iran. I'm not making that comparison, but like, if he's so concerned, there's a whole bevy of problems right here in his country he could be talking about.
Yeah, but imagine Bill Maher version that's Islamic, right?
Right.
Or he's an atheist in Islam, whatever. He would look at that and say it's all those Christians, because you could connect the Christianity to all the inbred early young marriage. You know, you can connect it to Mormonism. There's a lot of religion to blame there.
Yeah, that's right. But he won't say anything because he actually doesn't want to ruffle any real feathers. He just wants to mock. Is this what I'm doing? Yeah, okay, look at that. All right, here we go. Please clap.
Really, feminists? Come on, there's got to be a happy medium between a husband making his wife wear this and a husband making his wife wear this.
Okay, am I old? I don't even get the joke here. What is the joke on the right? Kanye made her wear that?
Probably, but I don't even think she's ever, that's Kanye and Kim Kardashian? No way that's Kim Kardashian. I can't even see it very clearly. I didn't know who the two different women who came to like a big profile who were married to Diddy were. I don't think that's either one of them. I don't even know, but like what, like.
But I mean, I'm also noticing, like, I mean, we know Maher's got some racism to him.
Yeah.
But the butt of his joke was Diddy. Right. Diddy was the butt of his joke, unrelated to it. He just drew a line from Palestine to Diddy, and now he's drawing a line from Jihad's. God, I'm not even saying
white men don't beat their wives. That's his point.
Yeah, but it's like, another black rapper. Like, it's a weird.
How do you know he's a rapper? I'm joking. I'm totally joking. Okay, all right. Move right.
Jesus Christ. I was saying jihad.
Oh, I didn't know what you were saying, so I was just trying to help.
God, yeah, my brain. I'm telling you, I think I had some COVID action somehow.
I think my brain fog has been contagious to you. I've infected you.
But geez.
I know 1619 was bad, but this is happening right now, right under your nose rings. And it's not just the clothes. 15 countries in the Middle East, including Gaza, have laws that require women to obey their husbands. Laws, not just Harrison Butker's opinion. And those societies also have guardianship laws, which means a woman needs permission from her husband to work, to travel, to leave the house, to go to school, to get medical attention. Nothing? Honor killings, where women are murdered by their own fathers and/or brothers, happen so frequently they can't even have an accurate account of how many. In 59 countries, there are no laws against sexual harassment in the workplace, and many have no laws against domestic violence or spousal rape. 20 countries have marry your rapist laws.
But like, and I'm sorry, again, I am very happy that I live in this country as opposed to any of those countries. But in this country, we have people trying to legislate that you have to keep your rapist baby or get permission to abort that baby. So like, and you know,
and I wonder how many of those laws exist in Israel as well. Like, I bet you could add some of these laws to Israel.
I mean, I don't know. So I don't want to just say that. I mean, I do know in Israel, they are, killing hundreds of people, innocent civilians a day. So whatever their laws are, it feels kind of like it does. If you're Palestinian, it doesn't matter. But yes, I mean, and also like we had a lot of these laws in this country up until fairly recently. Like you couldn't get, last century, you couldn't get a credit card without help from your husband. Women still make 85 cents on the dollar for men. Black women make 65 cents on the dollar. So like, again, if he actually cared, it was like when we got out of Afghanistan, which was a botched exit, but time to exit. Like we accomplished nothing, $2 trillion, Taliban's as strong as they ever were. And we killed a lot of their people and a lot of our people. But, there were a lot of the pro-war, the war hawk liberals and on the right blaming Biden and saying, what about women's liberation? And we thought we cared. And those poor Afghani girls and everything. And like, yes, I agree with all of that. But like, it wasn't great in the 20 years we were there. And we were enabling, like, I mean, we were enabling child rapes by the people we were putting in power, and we knew about it. The US knew about it and was allowing these things to happen. So like, it's always this kind of straw man just to deflect, as you already said, but he just does it with such smugness. He is so vile. We're definitely going to have to do a shot after this. Yeah.
Where sums it up. He just mushes all the Middle East, West Asia in one big ball and calls it analysis. So he picks out he cherry picks the worst things of these countries. And look, all this stuff with the hijab is terrible. The way women are treated in a lot of these countries is terrible. But it doesn't take anything away from the atrocities in Palestine.
100%. And, you know, as you're saying, Deborah, like, what's the suggestion? Like, do we invade them and spread our freedoms again? Right? Like, we don't have power over them. We don't fund them. So yes, we can protest it, but it's very different. The people we're protesting here are our own leaders who are supposed to be listening to us because we're supposed to be a democracy. And the students are protesting the deans of their schools and presidents of their schools who would rather have their donor money be invested in these hedge funds that, you know, spend money on Israeli weapons. So like, you protest the people who might listen to you. You know, are protesting what's happening there. It just like, the US is not heavily invested in helping Iran do anything. So whom are you protesting? Such a fucking idea.
I saw this question here and I'm like, who's worse, Bill or Morning Joe? I'm going to give it to Bill.
Yeah, me too.
Just because, look, Joe's awful and he's more of a shill for Democrats now, but his audience is less Democrats, where Bill Maher is appealing straight to, like, you know, my parents in general. Like he's hitting the normal centrist Democrats and giving them reasons to not care about Palestine. Like that's his goal with this show.
Yeah. And he's always brought on and normalized people like Ann Coulter and like the worst of the right wing and made them kind of try to be like fun and funny. And I think everybody should talk to everyone, sort of, but like he never, like if you have her on, you know, 20 years ago, and you think that she's like incredibly wrong about most of her ideology, you point that out and tell her with proof and receipts, why is she so disgusting? You don't like laugh and flirt and kind of make romantic sexual intonations that are like, he's always like straddled that, which I think is why there are so many liberals who they would always rather vote Republican than go towards the left. They are very happy to dismiss the left.
Yeah. And I appreciate the goal, the stated goal of the show, you know, getting all these people from all sides and discussing things.
Right.
And sometimes it actually does work, but it's so clear that he made a choice maybe 10 years ago to stack the deck against progressives and never have more than one progressives on at a time so that you could have 4 or 5 other people going, oh, you're fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like, look at your naive ass. So someone needs to, you know, so your progressive gets attacked by everybody on the panel, and that makes the progressive voice the outlier. Meanwhile, in America, the country supports all the progressive ideas overwhelmingly.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We only have a couple more minutes of this. Oh my goodness.
We can do it.
We can do it. All right.
Multiple societies have laws about what jobs women can and can't do. Make a Barbie movie about that. 30 countries practice female genital mutilation, and 650 million women alive today were married as children. Kids, if you really want to change the world and not just tie up Monday morning traffic,
that's the problem for him.
This is the apartheid that really desperately needs your attention. Gender apartheid.
And meanwhile, sorry, but the only time he ever talks about the stopping of traffic is with the protests against a genocide, not the rabid right-wing Israelis who are stopping, hundreds of tons of food from getting into to Gaza to help people who are enduring a famine right now, a man-made famine. Asshole, I hate it.
This is what should be the social justice issue of your time. How about from the river to the sea, every woman shall be free? But
that's like the Black Lives Matter. It should be all lives matter.
Yep.
But in reality, it's not an issue at all, for one reason. The people who are doing it aren't white. I hate to have to be the one to break it to you kids, but non-white people can do bad things too.
He's so aggrieved that white people ever...
Not a real thing. This is a made-up thing. It's not because they're white.
Now, white on black racism certainly has been one of history's most horrific scourges, but also it's true that in today's world, being non-white means you can get away with murder. So good on you kids for following your instinct to protest social injustice. Just remember, when it comes to finding a cause, pulling your head out of your ass is an important rite of passage.
I was waiting for him. Sorry, I'm getting us back here. I was waiting for him to have another black example, like a prominent black person, when he said, now if you're black, you can literally get away with murder. Who's he talking about?
Yeah, like, and put that in context with him mocking Nelson Mandela. Like, haha, everybody thinks Nelson Mandela's a great guy. You're such idiots. And here are two random black people that we use an example for no reason that had nothing to do with the context at all. But here are two black people you should laugh about because they're bad black people.
Yeah. He is really, it's so interesting. This group of white, mostly men, who are feeling like that whole cancel thing. Remember he tried to bring that up with Bill Burr. He's like, you're not canceled. I'm selling out shows. You've got a show. What are you talking about? You're not canceled. You said something and people have a right to respond and say they don't love what you said. Like, that's not canceling. That's criticism. He's so unused to anybody criticizing him that feels like cancel culture. And it's just so difficult to be white now. You could get away with murder if you're brown, but not if you're white, unless you're Benjamin Netanyahu or any single one of every president we've ever had, except for Barack Obama, all got away with lots of murder. Like, what is he even talking about? Oh,
it's just straight racist. I'm sorry. It's just crazy. Like that argument at the end that you get away with murder if you're black. Have you not followed any of the police brutality cases in the last 30 years?
He's like, Mr. Police Brutality when it happens in Iran, not here though. I know that's,
and we're all mad because everyone's going after Israel because they're white. Basically, like that's why this is our cause. That's the craziest shit I've ever heard.
Yeah.
We're defending the black people. I mean, we're defending Palestinian people. Like, the race doesn't even factor in. And a lot of Israelis aren't white. I mean, it's just like,
well, that's the other thing that's really interesting, right? Is there is so much talk about how many of the leaders in Israel are very clearly not indigenous to that part of the world, both because of their DNA, their actual countries of origin, their names, the way they look, the skin cancer. Like, there are all these sorts of things. I don't like that. To me, it gets like a little bit gross in some of that when you start talking about what makes up a person's, bloodlines.
I agree. It's just like he goes there on the side of white people. Like
100%. No, I'm agreeing with you entirely. Yeah.
It's just,
but yeah, if you're going to say anything, like, anyway, he's awful. He's really awful. So we had started, I watched Israelism. I don't know if anybody has seen it. I think it is coming. It's being re-released this month soon. I watched it when it was streaming for free right after the October 7th. But I've been watching. It's a great documentary, number one. And this whole week we've been talking about the red line. What's the red line? Does he have a red line? How many charred bodies does Biden have? What's the red line? And I was just trying to figure out how we change minds. Like, what helps change anyone's mind? And especially because the propaganda is so strong, and it's been going on for such a long time, and it's everywhere. So we were trying to kind of piece together, like, what is it that actually makes a person wake up? Like, sorry, and then I'll let you talk. I'm just like doing
I have nothing to say.
You know, when I was growing up, and I know I've talked about this before, I am not religious at all. I always joke I'm a food Jew. You know, I'm Jewish. I'm absolutely Jewish. You know, we would go to temple a couple times a year. One year when I was in Princeton, we moved all the time. I was often the only Jewish girl. But we lived in Princeton for a year, and when I was in 7th grade, and everybody was going to Sunday school, I was like, that sounds like fun, you know. So I started going just because that's what everybody was doing. But that said, I still always grew up feeling like Israel, like we were, I mean, not in any profound way, but we were sort of just like by default Zionists. Like, well, you know, Jews needed to go there. There was no other place for them to go. Like, there were all the excuses, all the reasons. And it took me a really long time, as I've said, to finally start doing my own research. But it also was much more available as I got older. When I was younger, you know, you might hear about like one professor or a book, but now there's like no excuse, especially when somebody's handing you information. And that's the only way I really know that we could ever change minds. So that's what we're going to kind of show, is some people who changed their minds because they actually were exposed to truth. But go ahead and talk, and we should probably spin the wheel before we get into a whole other bunch of bad stuff, right?
But yeah, look, it reminds me a little bit like, you know, by default, as a 80s kid, you grow up a little homophobic. Culturally, there's homophobia all around you. Like, you're just, the jokes are all, before you're old enough to make your own decisions about stuff. Yeah, that's gay. San Francisco 49ers are gay, you know, things gay. And, you know, and then I think for a lot of people, then they have an exposure to somebody in that culture, a gay person, and they're like, oh, he's not a terrible person. What the fuck are we talking about?
And also, like, it hurts his feelings when I say something, even if I don't think that gay people, like you realize, oh, that's not great, right? Yeah.
You don't have experience, and you're just taught that, is my point. And then you're exposed to something that changes your view of it. And usually it's a personal relationship, more than something cultural that changes. But there's so much information out there now that I think it's watching all these videos. It's relating to somebody Palestinian, which is almost the interpersonal thing that we got to overcome homophobia when I was a kid, is what I'm trying to connect to. Like, you're seeing these personal stories and you're making personal connections to what's happening. And I think that's how you change people's minds, you know, like,
I think so too. And it's information. It's really hard to get good information because there is so much online. And I will say, and I think probably some of us have not fallen into this trap, but like, I've started following somebody. I'm like, oh, I like what they're saying about that. And then all of a sudden it's like, it does then devolve into a kind of weird anti-Semitism where it's not about Israel or policy. It's like, oh, so you're saying the Jew, like, it's the Jews, you know, it's like, and then, so it does sort of, it's hard to suss out whom we can trust. Right. When I was growing up, I thought the New York Times was trustworthy. Well, that ended for me in 2003 with the Iraq War. Right. Like, I thought I really loved Rachel Maddow at one point until 2015 when I saw WikiLeaks. You know, like, they're all like, and you start seeing like, oh, I thought she was trustworthy. Like, I knew she was left at that time, whatever. But I knew she was left, but I didn't think that she said lies. Like, she just you know.
And I think that is part of it with all the issues. You know, once you hit a point where you're just so disillusioned at some point because of whatever issue you're following the media with, and you're like, you're very informed on that, and you realize they're lying. So now you look at everything else they're saying to you and go, oh, now I'm more open to other people telling me that's bullshit where I wasn't before, because I know they're bullshit over here.
Right. Exactly.
I think we're getting a confluence of that in a lot of ways. And that's why younger people especially are really fed up with our government, because they know they're getting lied to on all these things, and they're getting scapegoated too. So they're like, you're also blaming us every fucking day.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think a lot of the people, actually, I think everybody that we're showing is Jewish because, and I think all of them grew up as Zionists. So it was sort of like, how did these people make that journey? That was the thinking. It's not because, I don't want to like supersede what's happening, the horrors that are happening to Palestinians, to like showcase Jewish voices right now. It's more just to show even people who grew up in Israel, or, like they made a journey. And when they started realizing what their government was doing, even the staunchest Zionists started to change their mind. So that's just to set it up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Did you still want a wheel break?
Yeah, for sure. Right. Oh my God. Yeah. To take a break from my monologue here. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, baby.
Great. All right. What do you think? We could do, did we show this Matt Lieb clip on how to criticize Israel? If not, we definitely have. We have a say what. We have some timeline quizzes.
I think we did show.
I think we did too. You show something.
Okay, this is the most un-Israeli timeline cleansing
Perfect.
thing.
That's what we need for sure.
We'll just come back after this with some real news.
BK, how can I serve you today? One flame royal ass clown? Have it your way. You can't do fast food half as good as I do. Your pink slime meat turns my asshole to a drive-through. You're played out like a Chuck E. Cheese token. Your style's like your ice cream machines. Broken. I'm dropping whoppers that'll knock you off the menu. Call you Ronald Donald, cause there's no MC in you.
Why don't you call me Ronald Jeremy? Cause I'm getting nasty. Like the whoppers you sell, made of horse lips and ass me. Ask Rick and Morty, who's the lyrical boss. I've got lines for days. Call me Szechuan sauce. The undisputed go to putting burgers in bellies of fast food. Eminem, your machine gun Kelly.
Right? You're number one, like the whiz I took in your ball pit. Them rhymes you just spit are a Ray Kroc of shit. You spooky ass clown, you're so creepy it's insane. You look like you just ate someone's brother in a storm drain. You can't beat the king with your crew, please. The whole head of your government's name is Mayor McCheese. I ain't loving shit, even if Timberlake sings. I'm running circles round you like my onion rings.
Your onion rings are pretty good. But that verse was lifeless, you had no joy in it. Last rapper, this plastic had a Happy Meal toy in it. I'm serving billions and I can't be beat. You're a bin full of lettuce, facing defeat. Using Cheetos, dude, get your recipes together, man. I've had the same fries since I was Wheeler's got the weatherman. I'm the best trash-talking mascot in town. You might be the king, but a clown wears the crown.
Where's the beef? Where's the beef? Where's the beef? Show me two losers old enough to be my daddies, and I'll square up with them like the corners of my meat patties. It's Wendy, the hip-hop, the pistol I'm stocking. No fools as frosty as the salad bars that I'm dropping. I'm topping you two like plain baked potatoes. Exploiting you both like you were growing my tomatoes. King, you're creepy and you're always second fiddle. Your breakfast croissants are even worse than his McGriddle. And McDonald's gave your job to a box with a fate. Left you behind like a quiet kid in a play place. I'm the fast food queen, me with a tweet sash. Leave a bullets frozen cause I always keep my beef fresh.
That face.
That was good. That was really fun. I like that, Pat. Good choice. And
Right.
Kimmy says show that Matt Lieb clip. So, I mean, there are lots of Matt Lieb clips, but thank you for telling us. That was a good one. That was good. That put a smile on my face. I needed it.
Nice. Back to Israel.
All right, back to Israel. All right, so this is just the trailer for Israelism. I hope we don't get yanked for showing a trailer. No idea, but just to kind of give a glimpse of what we're talking about.
Some American Jews who come here say, we came to Israel and we left from Palestine.
The non-Jewish community does not understand our obsession with Israel.
I went to a Jewish day school.
Summer camp, organized trips to Israel.
You want to go to Israel too? Yeah! We want to go! We want to go!
Israeli soldiers, they're hot, they're awesome, they're strong.
We actually have had quite a few of our former students join the IDF. And these are kids, these are 18, 19-year-olds. Amazing.
I told my parents I don't even need to apply to college. I'm gonna just join the Israeli military.
10% of my graduating class joined the Israeli army.
We were deployed to the West Bank.
I don't think I realized the extent to which what I would come to see on the ground would really shock me and horrify me.
When people look at the West Bank today and say, this is an apartheid system, it's not just throwing out a word.
Palestinians live in, day out, without experiencing a day of freedom.
You see what non-democracy looks like.
What we've been told is that the only way that Jews can be safe is if Palestinians are not safe. The more I learned about that, the more I came to see that as a lie.
Within the Jewish community, there's been a striking change.
They're really angry at the way they were indoctrinated, justifiably so.
When we talk about we're losing the kids, we lost them. I think they're a little super naive.
Anytime you cut against the grain, you're going to catch hell.
You are a self-loathing Jew. Go kill yourself. An anti-Semitic Jew.
The way that we talk about anti-Semitism isn't about protecting Jews, it's about protecting Israel. How dangerous is that?
They will do anything to preserve unconditional support for Israel.
The great irony is that there actually is resurgent anti-Semitism.
Jews will not replace us!
History is not going to judge us kindly.
So it's a great documentary. I really highly recommend watching it. And she's wonderful. She's one of the founders of Jewish Voices for Peace. That I think they started that like in 2019 or 2020. I might be wrong, but it came out. It just came out about a year ago. So anyway, it's great. So the rest of I feel a little uncomfortable sometimes because I feel like it's all very negative about Israel, which I don't feel uncomfortable about at all. But I do sometimes want to just really emphasize again that that's not, that's a Zionist project to conflate Jews and Israel. It is also, unfortunately, there's a reason that so many Jews went to Israel. There was Zionism that started before that in the late 1800s. But as we have talked about, at the beginning of Israel in the 30s, or Israel of Zionism sort of like getting a stronger movement, Ben Gurion did deals with Churchill and said, if we can get 10,000 children out of Germany and they can come to the UK, but we can't get them to Israel, I'd rather have them stay in Germany. It will help our cause. So there were people who went to Israel because they didn't have a choice. And that continued after the war. I think I've mentioned my grandfather worked his whole life, for the second part of his professional life for Hayes, helping relocate Jews after the war. And I've been doing, he has apparently, there are more records given by my grandfather and that they have on my grandfather at the Holocaust Museum in DC than any other single provider, and I grew up my whole life with people who had been rescued by him saying, your grandfather saved my life, and he met with leaders of many South American countries where they were taking Jews, and with leaders of our country and with leaders of Israel. And I just stumbled upon something from the late 70s, early 80s, where a lot of Russian Jews who wanted to come to the US, who the US was willing to accept because they were trying to escape, more pogroms that were happening in Russia. And Israel and Menachem Begin stood in the way of that. And there are so many dealings that happen behind the scenes. And so a lot of these Russian Jews were forced to go to Israel if they wanted to escape, right? So like, as we're talking about some of the horrors that we're about to talk about that we'll show, not everybody was there voluntarily. I'm not excusing some of the things that we're about to see, but I just, that's the part of it that's complicated. Murder, death, genocide, apartheid, none of that's complicated to me. An ethno-state, not a democracy, not complicated, like all of that. But I just, that's the part of it that I sort of don't want to leave out. Yeah.
But I don't think most Americans, at least with our upbringing, I don't think we look at it like, because you're in Israel, you're a bad person. Like, you didn't displace a Palestinian personally just because you're Israeli,
Right.
I don't think we look at it like that. So,
I mean, it's interesting because, all the stuff that happened when Russia first invaded Ukraine, which again, as we've said so many times, I think is a much more complex situation. But, there were every country, every Western country, they're like, that's it. We're not accepting Russians. They were canceling Russian concert pianists who had nothing to do with the war. They were canceling, Russians couldn't come to different sporting events. There was all of that. And that felt really wrong to me, but it happened. And so now there is a push to do that for Israelis. And I'm not sure where I stand, because there's a part of me that feels like until the country as a whole feels like they're being ostracized or pariahs, nothing changes.
Right.
And yet somehow, I don't know, I'm just trying to figure out the logic. Like
I lean on the Olympic boycott. I support it, I think, at this point, but you can change my mind.
Russia? Like for Russia also?
No, I don't think this.
I don't either. I agree with you. I mean, I agree. And I'm just like, is it just because that situation is more complicated? It'd be like, first of all, the US would have to be banned from pretty much every international anything if we were counting on like the terror we've caused in the world, right?
Which would be amazing. Like that would be, if the IOC could make that happen, that would be amazing. I mean, that would change, that would single-handedly change our stature in the world. Like
it would force people to wake up a little bit to how the rest of the world sees us. So I think it just felt like there was a bullying tactic with Russia that was unfairly, like Putin is awful. Like I wouldn't want to live under him either. But I also feel like there was the whole Russiagate stuff that really added to everybody's like demonization of him, like he was Hitler. I don't know.
That just reminded me of something, since we just had the McDonald's Burger King thing on. Back in the 80s, when we boycotted Russia from the Olympics, I believe it was McDonald's had already put out all these game cards, and every time you bought a burger or whatever, you'd get a card and it would say who won the Olympic. It was all Olympic stuff.
Right.
So it's like, because Russia boycotted, every card you got was a winner. So you could go up and buy a burger, scratch the card, US won, US won, US won, and you would just get endless. I remember going in there and getting fries and then walking out, you'd eat like fucking 5 things because you just couldn't lose.
We rigged the games. When you can't have Nadia Comaneci in there, right? Like who's going to win gymnastics? Okay. So this is, there was like the new historians and Ilan Pape in the 80s that really started digging through the actual formation of the state of Israel and some of the things that happened that were horrific, even from the very beginning. Just a few years ago, there was a documentary made about one of the villages that was just demolished by Israeli fighters in 1948 called Tantura. So this is a segment from it just to kind of give people a different perspective.
מלחמת השחרור, ידענו דבר אחד פשוט, או אני או הם. מדינה לוקחים עם חרב, ככה אבא שלי אמר לי. המדינה מתשווע. ודאי, הרגנו בהם, בלי נקיפת מצפון. הרגת, אז עשית דבר טוב. הייתי מוכן להרוג. לא דיברתי עם אף אחד על זה. אשתך נגיד שחיית איתה הרבה מאוד שנים, אני מניח. לא דיברת? אף פעם לא סיפרתי לה. מה, אני אספר לה שאני הייתי רוצח?
של כל מיני דברים, של נקמה ואכזריות, אנשים שבאו היו כבר אנשים שבאו ממחנות ההפרדה. שם
שאנשים היו בכזה טרנס שלפי כמה וכמה עדויות נכנסו שם מחמת זעם בכל מי שראו.
צד אחר נוצא את האקדח, טרח, הרג את כולם.
הייתי ככה, בגדים של שינה, ויאללה, רפו אותם כמו פרות, חניהם.
בזמן קרב, אם מישהו הרים ידיים, משהו כזה, לא לקחתי שבויים.
כמה אתה חושב אנשים הרגת ככה?
לא ספרתי. אני לא יכול לדעת בחיי.
הוא תפס אישה, חתיכה צעירה, נכנס לבית אחד, הכין חדר מיטות, עם מיטה, ברתה לזיין אותה.
הילדה חזרה, זה סמרטוטיה.
אחד אנס שם איזה ילדה בת 16, משהו כזה. אתה מבין? אבל זה מכוער מאוד, היה לנו בחור אחד, הוא נפטר, הוא היה פרא אדם. הוא לקח פשוט מאוד ורצח אותם בתוך המכלאות. חוטי ברזל כאלה, עגולים כאלה, אספו כל הגברים. הם יושבים שם, כל העם, על הרצפה, ובא מישהו ולוקח תת מקלע ומתחיל זה, מחליף מחסנית. מה אתה חושב? זה חבר'ה שלקחו את הלוויורים ורדפו אחרי חבר'ה ושרפו אותם. זה היה משהו זוועתי, וזה אסור לספר, אני לא אדבר על זה. מלחמה זה מלחמה. לא כל אחד יכול לדעת מה זה מלחמה. ואני אומר, מי שלא היה שם, לא יכול לשפוט אף אחד אחר.
So that's hard to watch, but I think it's important. And, you know, I remember reading Primo Levi's Night and him saying, like, you know, he was a Holocaust survivor and he was a young child. And, you know, when you're given, like, they would give one little bowl of food, and that was the bowl that you also had to go to the bathroom in. That was your bowl. And sometimes they would give hardly enough to fill a bowl for a whole group of people. And so that they would all come running to it and beating each other off to get to it. And he said, you know, they treated us like animals and we became animals. And I feel like that is when we force people to fight wars. Like, we're asked, and, you know, I saw a comment here and I agree, like, when we send our young people off to fight wars, they often do monstrous things. And that's the first point of awful that we should, you know, absolutely condemn. But also they come home as the people we ask them to be. Like, you become a monster. I don't know. It just feels like a cycle that we need to break.
Yeah, and you can see, you know, the joy in some of their when they discuss it. It's a weird mix of happy and sad. It's just
like an embarrassment. I think I just froze. I can't believe it. Gosh darn it. All right, this gives you a chance to have a drink and show another something fun. I'll be right back.
Throw the clip. Bring the wheel back when you come back.
All right, I will. I promise. Jeez Louise. Oh my God.
Look, it's just you now. Okay, let's see. What do we got? We could say what? Let's look at Biden. Biden had a great week here.
This is the most election of our lifetime.
President, can you tell us, sir, Donald Trump refers to himself as a political prisoner and blames you directly. What's your response to that, sir? Do you think the conviction will have an impact on the campaign? We'd love to hear your thoughts, sir.
Should he be on the ballot, sir?
Oh my God.
So
I
that
came back
first
just
part,
in time.
I mean, it's, it's not that dramatic, but you got a whole audience just cheering that he's putting on a helmet and he can't put the helmet on, doesn't realize he has to take his glasses off or whatever. But the whole thing takes a minute, and it's a minute of him putting a helmet on and people pretending like he did something.
Who thinks that's a good idea to bring him out to look like such a fool? Like, that's horrible.
Well, and then leaving and looking back with his little smirk at the presser, which wasn't a presser. He didn't answer questions. And just turning back, looking like he's pooping his pants with his weird look.
Shuffling his feet because he can't lift his legs anymore. That shuffle walk is so not inspiring.
I mean, I keep telling people, including my parents, I'm like, he's done. This guy is lost. He is already lost. And I know this is just like old man optics kind of stuff, but like optics matter for one, but two, like he's not countering this with lucid moments. Like there are not lucid moments.
Well, the one thing that he is getting those shipments of bombs to Israel. That's like the one thing that has not let up at all. That's he's got a lot of energy when it comes to that. Okay, do we want to show, there was talk. Yeah. So we were talking, a little bit, this is about how to change a person's mind about Israel and what it means to be a democracy, which is not an ethno state. Like there is just absolutely no way to have a democracy when you want to have it be predominantly Jewish, which is what they want. Which is part of the reason that they do the ethnic cleansing. And then there are, there are different rules for Palestinians. And we keep hearing that like, it's the only democracy in the Middle East, which we know isn't true. They get rid of, media that they don't like. They cancel Al Jazeera. I mean, even apart from their slaughtering journalists in Gaza.
That's usually the first sign you don't have a democracy, is that you kick out the journalists and kill journalists.
Yeah. Exactly. And any dissenting opinions, right? People are being fired. And by the way, like we have laws on the books in this country. I mean, it's insane that you can't be a proponent of BDS. And now they're trying to make, in certain states, you have to pledge allegiance to supporting Israel. Like it's phenomenal that there has not been more of an outcry about what we're doing here. But certainly in Israel, you cannot pretend that Arab Israelis have the same rights as Israelis, especially because so many of them live in occupied areas where they are penned in a concentration camp. So I don't know why that lie gets to be, repeated over and over.
No, it's literally like saying we had a democracy back when slavery existed. Okay, so we did.
For us,
if that was a democracy, I mean, it's a democracy for the white folks,
right? And not the 3/5 of the people,
right?
I mean, not the people who are considered 3/5 of a person or slaves. Yeah.
So are we showing Miko Peled?
Yeah, and I do just want to say that this is Netanyahu in 2019. Israel is not a state of all of its citizens. Here come my readers, because the next clip is a little smaller. This is from the leader of Israel. Israel is not a state of all of its citizens. According to the basic nationality law we passed, Israel is the nation state of Jewish people and only it. So, that's him 5 years ago.
That's a democracy,
saying that.
right?
And so when
just the white people, I mean, that's
yeah,
what it would
exactly.
be here.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. And then this is, another great, if I think probably most of the people who are watching this are already quite knowledgeable, but Miko Peled, his father was one of the renowned generals in Israel who helped form the state of Israel, but who was really outspoken against many of the times that Israeli leaders were trying their hardest to not form peace with Palestinians who would come to the table. And so he wrote a book called The General's Son, which is wonderful, and has become a really outspoken activist. So yeah, this is him talking about apartheid.
And Israel governs this one state very skillfully with 3 different sets of laws. You have the laws that govern people like myself, Israeli Jews, who can come and go and say what they please. Pretty much a democratic state for all purposes. You've got the laws that govern the Palestinians who are citizens of Israel, and there are over 30 laws in the law books that discriminate against them specifically, and you've got an entire culture of discrimination against them that is deep-seated and deep-rooted in Israeli society. And then you've got the laws that govern the Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza, and this is really at the pleasure of the Israeli army. If they want to destroy, they destroy. If they want to arrest and beat, they arrest and beat. If they want to torture, they torture. If they want to kill, they kill. And Palestinians have no recourse. This is the reality. There's an education system, the Zionist education system, like Judith alluded, my sister just wrote a book about it. She's an educator, that teaches racism in a very subtle way. There's a bureaucracy, an entire bureaucracy, that is dedicated to making life impossible for Palestinians through all kinds of restrictions and permits and requirements that are absolutely uncalled for and unnecessary, but are all given and provided under the guise of security. And then you've got the Israeli army, which I like to refer to as one of the best trained, best equipped, best fed terrorist organizations in the world. And yes, they have generals and they have nice uniforms, but their entire purpose is terrorism.
You know, I don't know if it's his sister's daughter, but his niece was killed in a terrorist bombing in, I think, 2018 or 19. And the whole family still blames, and you know, because of his grandfather's station in the country and the esteem he was held in, Netanyahu was somebody that they knew and wanted to come to the funeral, and they said he wasn't welcome, and that it was Israeli system that, you know, as many of us are saying, is not making Jews safer anywhere around the world, but especially in Israel. And they are still very much activists and fighting for peace. And, you know, listen, we're seeing it now, right? Hamas. And again, I'm not like, you know, I always feel like I'm not a Trump supporter. I wouldn't have voted for Hamas, you know, whatever. But, you know, they're the ones who keep saying, we will do a ceasefire. We welcome the ICC and the ICJ's, you know, announcements, their decisions. We want the UN to investigate. You know, they are open to those things. And also, you know, a lot of people bring up their charter. Their charter was amended. Like, I don't know. Can we trust that? I don't know. But they say their charter was amended in 2016. And they said they're not going to prosecute under Sharia law anymore. And they're easing up on, you know, they're kind of letting people come to what they want to come to. And also they believe that there can be coexistence between Jews and Palestinians and Muslims. And I feel like, you know, they're so demonized and nobody ever gives that space. I'd love for Bill Maher to have Miko Peled on his show, but he never would.
Amen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so clear that regardless, at least in writing, what they say supports finding a solution for
right.
the people. And the converse of that on the Israeli side is we will never have a solution until you guys are all fucking dead.
Yeah.
So that's the two contrasting views. And the US is on the side of kill everybody.
Yeah. And lying to say Israel came with this 3-part plan that they clearly didn't, because they're saying we don't want a ceasefire. We need to kill all the Hamas, which they're never going to do. Hamas has had more. They can't even train all the people who are trying to sign up, because why wouldn't you? Also, sorry, just so in case we're about to get shut down, Cora, thank you. And I am with you. I'm sure you can tell by the copious amount of alcohol I intake every day, but thank you for your super chat. And yeah, I'm so depressed too. Pat is also, but I feel like,
it's interesting. Sort of related, but there've been a lot of studies recently and a lot of TikToks and videos put out about how it's the same people who are depressed because you're seeing reality. Like the people who are most able to see reality are the most affected by it. Like if you're not tuned into what's going on, you're in your happy little bliss space, which is, which is not us, unfortunately, although I can compartmentalize and still find my fun. But
and I think that's important, which is why we wanted to do the show in the first place, was like to remember what it is we're fighting for, the community and those moments of joy, and that everybody should have like a happy, dignified life where we're not scrounging for scraps. I think that's so important. But it's hard not to feel pretty depressed around these parts. All right, what are we moving on to? What do you think? Is this it? Did we do it?
What do we got?
I mean, I have there's another video of an ex-IDF soldier, which is a lot of the same thing.
I saw that. So I think we should show that. Well, I'm pushing the button on it. Let's do it.
And after 6 months of serving, my base was moved from Tel Aviv to the south. This was 2002. And I was asked to send planes to fuel planes that were going into Gaza, to bomb Gaza. At that time, I didn't have the language to understand exactly what's happening. But as we returned to the base, I had my first panic attack and couldn't enter the base. And the next day had to come and stand trial. And I was grounded to the base for 3 weeks. And in those 3 weeks, I understand that I have to leave the army. And that knowing at that moment made me want to take my life, because it was so against everything I was taught. And that started a process that I will be in for the rest of my life, which is the undoing of that indoctrination and that brainwashing, and the way that the Israeli identity has been merged with the Zionist identity. My message is, first of all, for everyone who can, to just find their heart and to liberate themselves from this identity that we call an Israeli identity. And there is no need for any one of us to serve in the IDF. The IDF should not exist. The state of Israel should not exist. We can be free without it. We can have a true connection to our heart without that identity.
I mean, it's really profound. There's so many videos on TikTok, actually, but some of them are quite long, of IDF soldiers who, when they saw what it was they were expected to do, and when they started meeting actual Palestinians, that's what changed their mind, as we were saying before. But also, like, what they're being forced to live with. Now they're more and more conscientious objectors, and they serve time in jail, but then they don't become part of the IDF. But anyway, somebody did ask. Her name was Maitel Yaniv. Maitel Yaniv, Meital Yaniv. Maitel Yaniv. Yeah. It's a hard process to undo there are just so many layers to it. And we've all been so, inundated with propaganda. I think that The Occupation of the American Mind was a really eye-opening movie for me to watch. And I know we showed quite a bit of it here. Like, that is a concerted effort to dictate the terms. It's like the next level of manufacturing consent, but for like one particular topic.
But you never really know what video is going to move the needle for somebody, So I think it's just exposure. So share stories from people on the front lines, share stories from people that were Zionists.
Yeah.
And maybe one of these clicks with somebody,
Yeah.
just like on the left, somebody empathizes with somebody who's had to sell their house to pay for their cancer treatment or whatever, So they see, the more people see themselves in somebody else, the more likely they are to empathize with their story. So on a personal level, if you share your story with somebody else, it's more likely to have some influence.
Yeah. I think that's true. All right. I put it out there. What should we do? And I saw a lot of, we should have a shot. So I know we're about to end, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and do, are we calling the audible now? I'm going to go ahead and pour myself a shot as we go out.
Pour a shot. I'll show up puppets. Why not? We have an extra puppets just sitting here.
All right. And then we're going out.
We'll have a shot and we'll be back on the other side of the puppets.
Okay.
Alex, don't beat someone's guy.
Maybe we just running out of.
Olha pra cá, um sorrisinho. Simpatia, Adriele.
Oh my God. Oh, the kids who are scared or who get like run over by an animal. That's always like, that was good though. That was good. And definitely those shots and my wine are all like, as much as I slop that stuff on my nose, it's Rudolph is back, I guess. All right. That's it, right?
I think that's a wrap. I'm on my third beer. I had some amazing beers because it's been a week. So I was enjoying it.
It's been a week. I hope you get to stay out of the attic this week.
It's probably not happening, but it makes me appreciate this show because it's nice. It's 68 degrees in here.
Oh, it's the perfect temperature actually for an
Loving it.
All right. You all are awesome. We will be back on Wednesday. We love spending this time with all of you. Thank you for giving us hope. Keep punching up. Yeah. What? Oh.
Just in time. She just came by to say hello. Hello and goodbye. Hello.
Bye, Strike.
Bye. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
I suppose the question is, Hamas, in some ways, through all of this discussion we're having, is being rewarded, is it not, for changing the discourse?
In what way is it being rewarded?
That's the argument, that they are getting they are getting their issues debated like
But they're
never
not their
before.
issues. They don't belong to Hamas. They belong to the whole Palestinian people. The Hamas are the ones who are willing to fight and willing to attack to make their point. But what I would say is, and this is, I mean this most sincerely, I hear people here say all lives matter, and I hear people say that they cringe and they recoil when they see the violence of the Israeli state in Gaza. But I have to say, I don't hear anybody who's willing to stand up and fight for the Palestinians. I don't hear anybody who's willing to put their political or their economic credentials on the line to save Palestinian lives. If you leave a vacuum where you're not fighting for the Palestinians, yes, Hamas are going to fill that vacuum every single day of the week.